Welcome back. Award-winning rapper Yanga Chief has solidified his place in the music industry with thought-provoking lyrics and a distinctive sound. His latest album, Lord Faku, Life of Dyan, is both a personal and universal narrative that captures the journey of finding oneself amidst the turmoil of grief. Through this album, he inspires listeners to confront their own challenges and seek solace in the teachings and values that have shaped their lives. Yanga Chief's artistry continues to bridge personal and collective experiences, making Lord Faku a significant contribution to contemporary music and a vital narrative for many. Our producer Snazo Notho and video journalist Sicelo Hlanulo had a chat with the rapper.
Yanga Chief is a good example of duality because the award-winning rapper has found the right balance between addressing pertinent topics, from happy times to always remaining self-centered, dealing with grief, telling fun and good stories sonically, as well as entertaining his music lovers. His recent album, Lord Faku, The Life of a Dyan, tells a story of a people navigating the complexities of loss and the emotional aftermath that follows.
What if Eminem is stuck with the 9 to 5? If Chester wasn't playing in 95?
It's been a long time coming. I actually dropped an album called Popstar between becoming a pop star and Lord Faku, and I feel like Popstar was, the training wheels still on leading up to this album. I had to take some time off after that. I think Popstar was dropped in COVID, so I haven't dropped anything since then. And yeah, I think the last 4 or 5 years have been me just getting to know myself again, hence the album title Lord Faku, because this one is a bit more personal and a bit more rooted in who I am as a person, culturally, spiritually. It speaks for itself. I think the music is there to showcase people what's been happening in my life and the things I've learned and how I've grown in the last 5 years. I had to just go back to how I grew up and my first infatuation with making music, There was a point I turned around and I just looked at the younger version of myself and I was just even more proud of him than I was before. And I just wanted to get to know him a little bit better as well. Obviously, as you grow up, certain things happen in your life. I've experienced grief again, and I just also had to, get through that. It also grounded me a bit and slowed me down and made me focus on the things that are important to me, and I found that most of the things that I'm about are things that I already learned when I was in high school, but you just tend to forget them when you come into the big bad world, and just reminding myself of why I do this. I always think like music, will always dictate, and I'm very good at just following the beat and the message that is trying to convey. I've never really been too worried about whether it's amapiano or whether it's hip hop, I've tried, every now and again just to dabble in amapiano. It's just, for me, so it's always been easier for me to do hip hop. I grew up listening to like your mainstream hip hop. So I think, when I do actually make music, that's always in the back of my head about like what kind of sound is more general to the crowd, and not necessarily making you feel like you're listening to a hip hop album now, but more sense just like music. Because if you look at SA hip hop, I think SA hip hop is, underrated in terms of how it's seen. There's a reason it has its own category in the Grammys, because it's general music, and if you listen to all the South African hip-hop albums, you'll find that it goes across many genres. It's not specifically just boom bap, and shout out to all the other artists before me, that have, stepped out of their comfort zone and brought other styles and jazz and kwaito into, let's say, hip-hop, There's probably like 3 or 4 songs that are even older than that on the album. But I think 2 years we started having an idea of the message that I'm trying to put out there, And I just stuck to my guns. The message is to know yourself and to love yourself as you are, whether good or bad. Work on the things that you want to fix and take everything a day at a time and don't feel under pressure. We're all unique individuals. We come from wherever we come from and we're going where we're going, different places. And you should be comfortable in knowing that your time will be your time. Those are the things that make you a man, that constant and continuous hustle and never giving up and, all the good things, in the Bible it says, for the fruits of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, faithfulness, kindness, goodness, Those are the pillars and things that we learned as kids, And Dyan is someone who doesn't forget the things that they've been taught, So I've leaned on that a lot in this process. And at the end of the day, I think another important thing about being Dyan is to be fun. Nobody wants a serious Dyan. So I tried to make sure this album was also fun while teaching what I want to teach. I always, want to lean towards King Dyan because of our relationship. Like, I'm a big fan of his. And we have a great relationship. And he always says things that remind me of my dad, actually, to be honest. Typical Xhosa guy who, is not afraid to mince his words, So these kids, I think they make themselves, man, I'm always online, laughing at memes, sharing memes like everybody else. And sometimes I know the value that a skit like that would have on a song, When it comes to track listing, I feel like it's one of the most important parts of putting a project together. And to be honest with you, when I submitted the album about a month or 2 months ago, it had a different track list. And even though all the songs that are there now were there, I was still not comfortable. Like, I was dreading the day the album drops, because it just doesn't sit properly. It felt like having a really expensive sneaker, but without laces, So I kept working on the track list and how it sounds and how it ends. And I finally cracked it like a week before the album dropped, and I moved everything around. And all of a sudden, my energy also just changed. Like, I couldn't wait now for the album to come out, So track listing is a very, very important part. And sometimes you need to lean on other people to help you get to the end of that track list. The My British sample, we were making this beat. The Abandiva song was on another beat, and if you follow me on Instagram, last year I think I posted that song but with a different beat. And then I went and I spoke to some other producers and we were making this beat, and while I was sleeping on the couch and they were making the drums, and I was just like, reminds me of the Brenda Fassie song. And we tried it and it actually worked. And I also wanted to add Bongo Muffin, Boom Shaka, and I also added a little bit of TKZ. I'm a big TKZ fan. And I think it worked out, But I always just choose samples that from songs that I grew up listening to. I think American samples are, always in all the music, And I think we have a plethora of great sounds that we could also dabble into. Just correctly, there was no leading single when the album dropped. And that's because, I just couldn't choose like my favorite one, and neither could the people around me. So I left it to the fans to choose their single, and I think they made their choice, and I'm happy with the choice as well. Look, the people that I wrote about there, first of all, the song itself I wrote on the 29th May on voting day last year. That's because the day before I had to go and get a temporary ID, and I was in the queue, like a 2-hour, 3-hour queue, and we were all obviously debating politics, and there was this old Indian man who was speaking about the character of our struggle heroes, and how maybe we don't appreciate the personal sacrifices that they made, and it really stuck with me, and I just felt like, let me write about people that have inspired my life, because I don't know, Nelson Mandela personally, and what the climate was like back then. And so like I just started writing about people that, you know, made me who I am today, you know. When I say what is Squatters Camp Esikhaleni was unwritten, is because the first time I ever went to a party that my parents allowed me to, Squatter Camp Esikhaleni was playing, you know, and I actually just sat next to the DJ. I waited until he was done playing the whole album. I took the CD home. I copied the CD, I brought the CD back, and I went straight home. That was my first experience of a party, you know, and I think it just kicked off, you know, my love for making hip-hop myself. So it's those kind of nuggets and all of those things, and I think we all need to appreciate the people that we can look up to and the sacrifices that they've made that they'll probably never even speak about, you know. For me, it makes it feel like we're not alone. You know, even if you're working a 9 to 5, you know, over time, your work, you know, starts affecting the rest of your family, you know, and they cannot start asking themselves, like, you know, what if Ubuti, you know, didn't have the discipline to actually make something out of himself? Where would we be? You know, I think we can all ask ourselves that kind of question, people around us.
If Chester wasn't playing in 95, if Philemon, my singer, was called offside and Doctor was injured, would you have ever seen Barker fly? And Brenda Fussy wasn't obsessed with show business, and all the Winnie wanted was checks and more children. And Costa said, you wreck, we're not women. Jabba didn't fuck on your vest, they can't.